I hurt my back lifting a couch a couple days ago. While I was lifting the couch, I had all these ideas running through my head. Checklists, things we needed to get done, wondering what it would feel like to have an empty house, be in a new place, be in Youngstown, Ohio. Lots of thoughts. In the middle of this reverie, I bent down to lift up the couch, and I immediately knew I was unsteady. We got help from somebody to lift the couch, and he tripped a little bit on one of our steps, and I could feel the lumbar muscle in my back just go. And it was just for a moment, and I continued to lift the couch, put it in his truck so he could have it, and I was walking around thinking, that was close. I thought to myself, just a strained muscle, I'll be fine. I woke up the next morning, and you could probably guess how this goes. I couldn't even get out of bed. My whole lower back was just seized shut. I thought to myself, this can't be happening. We have 5 days left in Tulsa. This can't be happening right now. I have to be able to move. Well, I got myself out of bed with sheer willpower, grit my teeth, trying to ignore the pain, and I thought, I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm normal. This is no big deal. This is not happening. So I leave my house and I go for a walk I usually take around the block. And I try to walk normally and my back just starts seizing with every step I'm taking. And I'm forced to take ginger little steps, like I'm walking like Thich Nhat Hanh, like very mindful walking meditation down the street. Again, I thought to myself, this can't be happening. I tried stretching. Again, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna beat this thing. I'll do a few stretches, maybe a little cat-cow. You know, I'm gonna get this thing back in shape. Well, that was a bad idea. The more that I stretched, the more that my muscles seized, and I was forced to surrender. And so, last resort, I look online. And I Google, how do you relieve a lumbar strain? And I found a good article. It said the two most effective things we've found to relieve a lumbar strain that's been proven clinically time and time again, two things: time and rest. Patience. Time. That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to find a magic, pressure point, a magic stretch, something. No. Time. Time. That was the best healer. Time and rest. Patience. The topic I was thinking about before I hurt my back was crossing the threshold. When we can't go back, and when we are invited into a new reality, a new life. The idea of crossing the threshold came up for me simply because this is my last service with you as your intern, and this feels like a major threshold for me. And so that was what was on my mind. So I'll talk a bit more about what that means for me later. But as I was reflecting on all this last week, the verdict was announced. You know the verdict? Acquitting the police officer who shot and killed Terrence Crutcher. My stomach sank when I heard this. It seemed hopeful back in the fall that there would be some kind of justice. There was a sense that perhaps Tulsa would stand apart from the other cities and actually hold their police responsible in some tangible way. Especially since there was a video and audio recording which clearly showed an unarmed man with his hands up, surrendering, being shot and killed by police. We thought Tulsa would stand apart. At least I did, on some level. Alas, that was not the case. Tulsa would not be the exception. There would be no police responsibility, just a continuation of the same narrative. The senseless death of an unarmed person of color and a public acquittal. It's the same narrative again and again and again. I was upset when I heard this, and my heart broke for the Crutcher family especially. Terrence's sister, Terrence's father, Joey Crutcher, and others who now have to struggle to make sense out of a senseless death. I was upset all last week. I could feel my insides all tangled up. I was even upset, strangely enough, when I heard that the police officers following the verdict stayed a block away while family members and members of the community protested and shared their grief. What's the point, I thought? Another opportunity to let people scream and cry until they get tired and have to go home while nothing really changes. I started feeling really cynical last week. I'm being real with you. Feeling really cynical. Why did I think this trial would be different than the countless others? Why did I think things would be different in Tulsa, different than in Portland, Oregon, or New York City, or Charlotte, North Carolina? I thought, Joseph, you let dumb hope get the best of you. I'm aware that this coming Wednesday, May 31st, marks the anniversary of the 1921 Race Massacre, a major event in this city. This coincidentally is my last day in Tulsa. My wife and I leave June 1st, the following day. The John Hope Franklin Center is hosting numerous events, including, as Marlon mentioned, a walk for peace and reconciliation, where members of the community from South Tulsa are going to walk toward members of the community from North Tulsa, and they're going to meet in Reconciliation Park, the site of the race massacre, and embrace each other. After the verdict was announced, I couldn't help but wonder, how do we cross the threshold of hearing about another unarmed black person getting killed with no police responsibility, to a week later taking a walk for peace and reconciliation? How do you make that work? How do you cross that threshold? I knew I was not alone in wondering this. Many Tulsans are being asked to bridge that gap and grapple with how to cross this threshold with integrity, with a sense of authenticity. How do we cross the threshold when we feel compromised, when we're in pain? And it seems to take every ounce of strength in our body to take just a ginger little step. At Reconciliation Park, when I first moved here, I was moved by the three statue figures that offer three distinct realities following the race massacre. One man stands with his hands up in the same posture as Terrence Crutcher. Underneath him it says in large letters, humiliation. I presume this is a man during the massacre forced to witness his business and house burned to the ground, forced to fear for the safety of his entire family, forced to reconcile with no sense of justice. He's vulnerable. with his hands up, no possessions, no protection, legal or otherwise. He's left with no tangible legacy. Everything has been taken from him, and his only response is to surrender. The figure right around the corner from him shows a man with a cigar in his mouth, and he's packing heat. He has numerous weapons, a rifle, a pistol, a knife. He's pointing a rifle casually with a look on his face that says, "Don't mess with me." Underneath him in big letters, it says, "Hostility." The last figure shows a man holding a newborn baby. And he's looking at the baby in the eyes with warmth and care. And underneath him, in giant letters, is the word hope. 3 distinct realities for people following the race massacre. When I first moved here, I saw these figures and interpreted them as a progression. That's what I just thought in my head. First, maybe there was humiliation, then hostility fed by anger and grief at having lost everything, and then the final stage being hope. Since the verdict last week, I now see things a little bit differently. I don't see them anymore as progressive stages, but distinct realities, worthy of their own attention and care. Each man, I remember, is the same height, and each reality is given the same amount of space. Hope is not bigger than hostility or bigger than humiliation. They're given the same amount of space. The question I now have about the hope statue now is, is hope divorced from hostility and humiliation? Does it overcome it? Or is it still in touch with them? My experience this year as your intern makes me think the latter. I've learned that hope solely attached to a particular outcome is very flimsy and is really no way to live a life. Not in the long run. Not when things get really tough. I do believe in real hope, though. A hope that is not bound to any particular outcome or circumstance. I witnessed this kind of hope for the first time at Standing Rock. When I arrived the second time to witness there, I met a man, it makes me cry. I met a Native American man from Minnesota, and I asked him why he remained committed to witnessing at Standing Rock. And he told me the truth. He said, "I struggled with alcoholism back in Minnesota. I struggled to keep a job. I usually either got fired or was forced to quit within weeks of being hired. I had 2 little girls that I struggled to support. And I just knew that I was called to be here. And after a couple of weeks of being here at Standing Rock, he told me, this is the part I always remember, he said, "I like who I am here. I found a community here, and I found a taste of what real peace is like. I like who I am here." And in that moment, I realized that, you know what? I liked who I was there too. That was the awakening. All my hopes, all my longings for that moment were made real. I liked who I was there. And for me, that gave me a different version of hope. It was not a hope bound to a particular circumstance. He never talked about the oil pipeline, although it was obvious, that's why we were all there. He just said simply, "I like who I am here." And for me, that really has been emboldened in my mind of a path of hope, of regardless of what happens, I want to like who I am in whatever circumstance I find myself in. I want to like who I am here. Real hope does not exist in a silo, cut off from other human realities and human emotions. Real hope, I believe, is willing to lose its footing, even fall down, in order to keep growing more real. Now, when I think of the statues at Reconciliation Park, I imagine the man filled with hope going around to the man with hostility and the man who is humiliated and keeping them company. I imagine the man filled with hope willing to cross the threshold. Hope that can only maintain itself by controlling its circumstances is not real hope. It's masked anxiety. That's all it is. It's painful to feel stuck in a hope that is unwilling to budge and is unwilling to have its heart broken. It's just as painful as being stuck in humiliation or hostility. We're not meant to be stuck as human beings. It causes a lot of pain to feel stuck. But we come up with good reasons to feel stuck. Either we can feel justified in our own pain and just buckle down and feel stuck and blame the world for why we're in so much pain, even if it's real and valid. Or we feel stuck in our own artificial world, a world where people's problems don't really matter as much as they think they do. And either one is a hell. I can tell you I've been in both. They're hell. And they're no way to live. One of my favorite Zen sayings is from the 19th century. He says, "I possess a great power. When the storm blows, I fall over." Real hope allows us to be fully human without blaming ourselves or other people. We let ourselves fall, and we let other people fall. And we keep each other company as we continually fall down, injure ourselves, and do our best to cross the thresholds of our life. Real hope is willing to lose, if that's what it comes to. And we trust that we can lose without blaming anyone. That's freedom. Fearlessness, without blame. In the Mahayana school of Buddhism, they assert that nobody is saved unless all people are saved. I think this is just a beautiful sentiment, however you articulate that for yourself. And I think it's the root of real hope. As long as somebody out there is feeling hostility, as long as somebody out there is feeling humiliation, we can't just be in a place of blind hope. It has to touch our lives. And it has to be real, without overwhelming the hope that we do have. And that is a tough practice. And that is why I'm so grateful to have a church community like this, where we get to practice doing that. Because nobody can do it alone. I certainly can't. Real hope engages reality with patience that is not despairing or complacent. Patience that is not despairing or complacent. Real hope is grounded in liking who we are in a given moment, regardless of what happens. Real hope allows us to meet difficulty with compassion. Hurting my back a couple days ago reminded me of this. It reminded me that I'm vulnerable and that I can't control all the circumstances of my life. I can respect the limitation, though. with a grateful heart. And I can still cross the threshold, even if it means I have to take 4 ibuprofen and hobble a little. I can still cross the threshold. I can preach my last sermon. I can even walk for peace, I believe, on May 31st, on Wednesday. I take heart in this vulnerability rather than being defeated by it, or remaining upset, or blaming the moving guy, or my back, or whatever. I have certainly felt all 3 experiences that are in Reconciliation Park: hostility, humiliation, and hope. And I know many people in this city have too. These are human realities, human feelings, and especially since the verdict, I believe many of these have come up and flared up again for some people. My commitment is to walk with them on May 31st, the anniversary of the Race Massacre. I'm not going to walk to cheer anybody up or to try to get people out of their reality or even try to make them feel hopeful. I'm going to walk to bear witness to them, and I'm going to keep them company. I'll walk on Wednesday to bear witness to all that has happened in Tulsa since 1921, and all that will happen while and after I'm gone. I'll walk to cross the threshold with Tulsa, even if I or others are forced to walk very gently, even if there's some pain. It's just too painful to be stuck. We must cross the best we can. That's all I know. As I said earlier, this is my last Sunday. My wife Jennifer and I are moving to Youngstown, Ohio, where I'll be serving a congregation as their sole minister. People keep congratulating me on being a senior minister, but I tell them it's a little weird to say I'm a senior minister when there are no other ministers. I'm just the minister, so, and it's an honor, it really is. And it's been an honor to serve you. It's been an honor to be here. And you all have created the conditions for me becoming the minister that I am becoming. And I'm not finished yet. I'm still in formation. But this community really has shaped me. I can't help but think on this Memorial Day weekend of the 2 men that I memorialized in my time here, 2 men who served in World War II. And I can tell by hearing the stories from their families and friends why they are called the greatest generation. They and many others have helped our country and our world cross many thresholds in uncertain times. Thank you for trusting me as your minister, allowing space for me to learn and grow and find my voice. I'm eternally grateful for all of you. And it's been a real gift to walk with you. Thank you.